Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 1177 of our daily content grind, and today it's the first of the month, meaning it is time for another monthly Q&A video. So, you know the rules by now. If you want to leave a question for next month's video, please do so in the comments below. Please only ask one question per person, so we can get everybody in. Please do not post anything against TOS. I will have to delete it. Please keep it to something short and simple to answer. I'm not going to come up with entire story concepts or entire rosters on the spot. My brain can't function that fast. And again, I need to get through this as fast as possible. These videos are already 2 hours long. And yeah, if you're going to make something a comment, if you're just going to comment on the video, please mark it as a comment. That way, we don't want to go through. That way we're not reading anything by accident. We got to stick to the questions, or else this will be a 4-hour video. All right? We good? Excellent. I will let you know a couple things for the month. One, yes, I'm attempting Toycember again. I don't know why. I've lost my mind, but we're going to try. Also, there's probably not going to be a Christmas haul video this year because I really don't expect to get a lot. That was all up to my family. My responsibility to them has mostly ended. So, yeah, everything stops flowing and everyone has more important things to spend money on than me. So, yeah, don't expect a haul video this time. I know it's popular, so I'm warning you now. But all that out of the way, all the programming updates out of the way. Let's start with the first question. We've had Optimus Primal and Ultra Mammoth. How would you feel about Rodimus Prime, Pride, who becomes a lion? I have said for a long time that I think the perfect Rodimus Primal would be a retool and like red and yellow repaint of Lio Convoy. That just seems like a really good fit for Rodimus. Rodimus Pride as a lion transformer, I love that pun. In the same vein as Optimus Primal and Ultra Mammoth. Congrats. I like that better. I want that now. Lio convoys are kind of dime a dozen at the moment, especially once the Takara one hits, like the aftermarket's gonna go nuts. I might need Rodimus. I might need a Grim Locamus on this one for me. Let's see. What different alt modes would you like to see Rodimus Prime? We're 2 questions in, and we've already 2 deep in Rodimus Prime, which I kind of love. Drag race, semi-truck, or an actual old-school hot rod would be fun. I'd like to see Rodimus become a fire truck. So, I am in the fire truck camp for a Rodimus Prime, because I feel like becoming closer to Optimus in that way, not only in vehicle mode, but also just in, like, mass and bulk. This is his way of growing up and growing into the role as a stronger leader. Also, there is the whole new Rodimus concept that got canceled, and I've always wanted to see that one actually come through in the end. As I keep agua nearby, because my throat will get dry reading all these questions. But yeah, like some kind of modernized fire truck, especially if you can avoid the transformation scheme of Inferno, I think you'd get something really nice out of it. Let's see. In a previous video, I asked which Optimus Prime has your favorite fire truck mode. But man, we're thematic so far. Which Megatron has your favorite tank mode? That one is tricky. Like, I mean, it might be recency bias, but I really do love the tank design in Transformers 1. Like the long treads in front and all the bulk to the back. I actually really like how that looks. I think it looks menacing and practical at the same time. If I'm thinking like Megatron tanks, there's so many to go through in my brain that like narrowing it down gets a little bit tricky. Part of me kind of wants to just go with the original G2, just like a normal stock tank with just an upgraded cannon. But that's a little bit boring. That's a little bit boring. I like the hover tank from War for Cybertron as well. I like that one as well, because that seems to be more to Megatron's speed. It's not really a tank. It's just a floating cannon placement. And that is a little bit closer to his G1 incarnation. So I think that works for him really well, too. Now that you know they're willing to redo old Studio Series figures, what are some characters you want to have a second chance? Me personally, I would like to see Barricade, Car Shatter, Crankcase redone. Car Shatter is a must. That one I'd really like. Revenge of the Fallen Soundwave has mentioned. That's a terrible toy. Helicopter Dropkick, I disagree. Like, it's inaccurate. I might want a more accurate version, but I do think the toy is actually really good. If I'm thinking of others, that gets tricky. Especially because my head is out of Studio Series so much that, like, I don't really go in on those toys very often. God, I'm trying to think of one, like, because I'll be honest, a lot of Studio Series toys have disappointed me. Every time there's a Studio Series design from the movieverse that I think, oh, okay, I'm willing to try this out. Let's see if this one works. Nope, I still don't like these. And that's just how it goes. That's just how it goes. Car Shatter's probably going to be very high up there. Maybe Helicopter Dropkick if you get it a little bit more, if you get redesigned well enough. I'm just trying to think. I'm drawing blanks here of like who was not good. Who were the really not good ones? Like I wouldn't mind a more accurate like World War Bumblebee. That was a terrible toy and not accurate in the least. You could try that for me. What's the least consistent Transformers line? Really high highs, but really low lows. Fascinating question. Okay, that's actually good to think about. Huh. Now I'm really gotta like press my brain. I mean, G1 is one of the first ones that comes to mind because like when G1 is good, it's timeless, and when G1 is bad, it's just unpleasant. But I also think that's because the line went on for so long. You actually have that spans. Honestly, like it might be Studio Series because I think there's just as many duds as there are huge hits. But that's a matter of preference poking through. So like maybe that one's an unfair one. If I'm going to go out there on a limb, I would probably say Power of the Primes. Because that one does have some really, really good toys. Like, surprisingly good toys. And then a lot of really disappointing ones. I was disappointed in the Dinobots. I was disappointed in, like, the Jazz. And not just for the Deco screw-up. But then again, Abominus I thought was really good. Blot is way better than he has any right to be. The Evolution toys were really, really good. You know, very wide spanses in between the quality on those. And then you had things like Buff Starscream and Elita 1, which did not feel like good toys. You know, you had Retool Inferno, things like that. So yeah, I think I'm going to go with Power of the Primes on that one. Is it easier on the budget to make figures with big Kibble backpacks? It really depends on the figure because those backpacks sometimes will have like, keep in mind, one of the most expensive things in producing Transformers these days is assembly. So that's why they bring up part count so often in like videos explaining why they're like, this is why this isn't painted, this is why this figure is like less articulated and whatnot, because we ran out of part budget. You know, this is why such and such isn't included. We ran out of part budget. And it's not so much the pieces in the molds, it is the expense of having the extra steps of assembly. So they try to keep it to only a few parts. So like big Kibble backpacks, technically, yes. It's easier to make them transform because then you just have to fold up the robot and unfold the vehicle backpack around it. But if it's made of so many parts, then it's redundant, and it's going to cost a lot more. So, no, not necessarily, but it really depends on what the figure's doing and what it's trying to accomplish. How do you handle franchise fatigue? Say if Transformers aren't cutting it, do you move on to an adjacent franchise or something completely unrelated? So, franchise fatigue is something that a lot of people kind of ask me about when it comes to the fact that I've done over 3 years of Transformer videos, and almost every day it has been a Transformer video. For me, when I stop recording or I stop researching the video for the day, I completely shut my brain off from Transformers. I might play around with a new toy if it's come in, but for the most part, I don't sit and talk about it unless I'm in the mood. I don't watch the old movies or cartoons. I completely separate my brain. You know, I go watch YouTube channels and Twitch streamers I like. I read comic books for certain franchises that aren't Transformers. Like Ninja Turtles, Sonic, etc., the Power Rangers books. I basically just take my brain away from it. If I'm in the mood for like something that isn't a Transformer, then yeah, like every now and then I'll poke my head into something else. I just recently got my first Shin-Calion figure, and that was a really, really cool toy. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm going to go with that. I'm gonna I mostly just I move into something completely different, so I'm getting a very different experience besides outside of a Transformer. But what that is varies a lot. It really depends on the mood. Beyond that, least favorite seeker. If we're talking about the character seekers, the ones that have actual names and personalities, probably Dirge. I don't like that he's kind of just Thundercracker with brown wings sometimes, and his personality quirk is he's just really depressing. You know, he's just grim and depressing, and it's not my vibe. It's not something I enjoy out of a character. I don't know, he just seems tacked on compared to a lot of the others. Not a fan. Not a fan. I can find something to enjoy about all the other core Seekers and even some of the extended ones like Sunstorm, Acid Storm, Nova Storm's making a good push lately. Slipstream obviously. I don't know. I just Dirge never did anything for me. Now that said, my girlfriend did get me a G1 Dirge. That one is very special to me. There's an exception. I'm talking character-wise, love. With the age of Primes and Studio Series packaging looking so similar and Studio Series dropping down to 3 waves a year, is this a sign that Hasbro is slowly trying to make Studio Series and Generations into one collector-focused line? I don't necessarily think so. I think that is, I think it's more or less just to try and unite the brand a little bit. That way when you go to a store and see it on the shelves, it looks huge. Because the shelf space for Transformers has been diminishing over the years. So rather than break it up to make it look like, separate toy lines, now they're just embracing a more unified look. So their presence on a store shelf is way more noticeable and solid. That's what I am taking away from this. As far as 3 waves a year, they're doing that with Generations too, and we've been told by Hasbro why that is. We're getting just as many toys per year. We're just not getting any filler re-releases. No more packaging refreshes. So yeah, and that's an effort to reduce rarity of figures, make it easier to get pieces, especially because they got combiners coming out. So it doesn't really have anything to do with unifying the lines or anything. I don't think we're going to get to that point. Unless Studio Series runs completely out of ideas, I think we're just having a more unified Transformer brand is all. Do you have a character that don't have a toy, but when they get one announced, you'll buy in a heartbeat? Who doesn't have a toy now? We live in a world where Straxus, Emirate, Zaron have toys, Dion has toys, Moonracer has a toy. There's very few. Devcon has a toy. There's extraordinarily few that do not have toys at this point. And I'm honestly hard-pressed to think about it. Honestly, if it's something goofy, and kind of fun, yes. Now, if it's something like Star Upper from Beast Wars, yes, because it's hysterical. If it's something, for instance, like IDW based, like Anode and Lug, yeah, I love those two. I would absolutely go for a toy of them. You know, as far as official, like, I don't even think Anode and Lug have third-party toys. You know, like, we're that starved for it. But yeah, like, a lot of those come from the IDW 1.0 era. Nautica didn't get a real toy of her own. It's just a blur retool that wasn't that accurate. You know, the rest of the DJD, obviously, even though I'm sure they're not going to work at normal retail. Things like that. Like, that's kind of where my source is, because there's a lot of characters to love in that section of Transformers. See, I realize this may be too complex, so go ahead and skip it if it is. You're making a mini-series where 3 cons and 3 bots are stranded and have to work together to survive, but plot twist, 2 of them are torso bots and the other 4 are limb bots. They'll be able to combine into 5-part combiner, but 2 of the bots, the opposite sides, oh my god. Renji, yeah, this may be too complex. This is extraordinarily complex to think of on the spot. I apologize. This is not... You really are asking me to come up with a roster and a storyline. Please don't ask that in this. Like, if I'm going to do fast punchy questions, like, I can't think of entire rosters on the spot. I do apologize for that, but I'm trying to keep it quick. If Hasbro were to do a Transformers X WWE collab, what wrestler would be the best candidate and what would their alt mode be? John Cena would already be included with it. You just can't see him. Yeah, and no AI related questions. I will delete any question about, like, using AI in Transformers in any way, shape, or form. Honestly, like, I feel like there's a meta here where redoing, like, the Prime Cliffjumper that recently came out to actually be The Rock would be, like, the way to go. That would be great. At the moment, your bet would probably be Cody Rhodes. It would probably be Cody Rhodes or Roman Reigns at the moment. Alt mode, like, I would hate to reuse Air Razor, but I feel like Cody needs to be an eagle of some kind. He needs to be bigger than that, though. I would imagine he needs to be Voyager at least. And then, what would Roman even be? See, that's the thing, is, like, I think of beast modes before I think of anything. You know? So that makes it a little bit trickier. Because, like, with Roman, with Roman, I might almost make him like a rhino so he can spear things. Things like that. Would you like to see more uses of the 2 or more robots combining into one vehicle mode gimmick akin to Micromaster Combiners, the Ice Cream Truck Twins, or that Garbage Truck KSI Trio? So it really depends. Now, you're talking to someone who really likes G1 Reflector, which does require that. And sometimes, yeah, like, that can be a fun little gimmick. But understand, if one half of that breaks or gets lost, you're out the other toy. Suddenly, the half that you still have intact can't transform. So while I think there is space for it, I really think the toys need to be as independent as possible. I think Siege had the right idea, making each piece of Reflector its own individual vehicle, but making it so that they happen to turn into a camera if you have 3 of them. You know, that's more along the lines of, like, the proper approach. And we kind of got that with Battle Trap, because instead of just being a standard Duocon, he was 2 robots who combined into the Battle Trap toy. So that's probably the direction that you want, just to make sure you are guaranteed a toy even if one half gets lost or broken. How busy does the toy store you work at get during the holiday season? Let's see. So as I record this, I did work the toy shop today, and we had, at one time, about 14, 15 people in the shop at the same time. Yes, it is a Black Friday weekend. Our Black Friday deal is still going on during this day, but oh, good Lord, we have been slammed the last few weeks. Normally, I get time enough to, like, research and concept videos. If I'm lucky, I can film during hours. But these, like, last few weeks, I've had to stay late every day at the shop just to get extra filming in. Which, you know, which is kind of why the videos are out at, like, 8 p.m. lately. So, yeah, holiday seasons at a toy shop, yeah. It's not like normal retail work most of the time, but this is the time of year where, yeah, it feels like retail work. Is there something like a vehicle or animal that you just think, how is this never an alt mode of a Transformer when seeing it? Mine is the Tiger Tank, which is surprisingly unrepresented even in third-party space. I don't know what a Tiger Tank is. I mean, there are some, like bus. We've talked about bus Transformers before because there really has never been one, even though it's an extraordinarily common vehicle for people to see. I'm trying to think of other ones because we've hit so many alt modes. There are so many alt modes now. We never had a limo Transformer. I think just long Transformers in general are difficult. I'm trying to think of anything else that's like missing here. I mean, animals are a little bit easier. I think there's a lot of room for mythical animals. I still keep wondering why there's never been a Transformer Griffin when we've had so many dragons. We've had an Urza Griff, which is more like a an eagle bear hybrid. You know, and that was in Prime Beast Hunters. But that's as close as we got on that one. God, we did a whole video about animals that have never been in Beast Wars, have never had toys in Beast Wars. And yeah, like, I would recommend going back to watch that because there are a lot. There's some very good animals that have never been Transformers. Between Armada, Energon, and Cybertron, which series do you think had the best Autobot ensemble cast, i.e. where all the bots had very distinct characters, stories, had interesting dynamics, and felt the most like a real team where everyone pulled their weight? Honestly, if I'm judging from those three, probably Armada. Because Energon is just kind of devoid of personality. A lot of characters just kind of feel the same, and they're just kind of there to get into, you know, just to create gunfire during big battles with Decepticons. And then Cybertron, honestly, I think the cast is too large. I think a lot of characters in Cybertron get lost in how big the cast is. You know, like, how much characterization did Quick Mix add? Right? Like, how much did Crosswise add? You know, there's a lot lacking in Cybertron. I love Cybertron as a toy line. I will admit the cartoon, maybe a little bit overbloated. Why don't we get repaints of the same characters anymore? I mean, the likes of, like, Nightwatch, Optimus Prime, Cryo, Scourge, Elite Guard, Bumblebee, etc. Probably because they don't need to. Because these days, when they create a Transformer mold, they already have multiple other characters baked in, whether that is total retools or simple repaints. So there really isn't a need to just come up with the same character but with alternate color scheme. And understand, that doesn't fly nearly as much these days. One, because there's no fiction behind it, and two, there's no nostalgia to it. You know, like, really, honestly, these days, you need nostalgia to pull people in to get enough toy sales going, because kids alone are not enough anymore. They're more interested in iPads and Nintendo Switches. You know, we need adult collectors to be buying toys, and they need nostalgia. So unless you come up with a really super sick-looking repaint, yeah, you're not going to see, like, alternate versions of those characters anymore. Would you like to see the 1986 characters given alt modes of real vehicles from 2005? Now, personally, I wouldn't like to see it because it's, you know, that is iconic of them. Like, their alt modes are them. That said, it is a very funny idea. This is one of the things that I would, like... Hang on. I am literally adding that to a notepad because that's a video idea. That's actually a really good video idea. I'm stealing that. Let's see. What would animated Blitzwing's character be if he was in the Shattered Glass universe? Probably, I would imagine more like Manny faces from He-Man, where you have, where the blue face is far more, where like one face is far more logical, one face is, far more, normal. You have a normal face, a logical face, and then like a strongman face, right? So you wouldn't have the crazy one. You'd have three much more balanced ones, and then you'd have someone who's there to be the brains and someone who's there to be the brawn, and then by default he would just be like the middle ground. That's Manny faces, and you would probably see that for animated Blitzwing. Both because that's just the nice guy way of doing that trio, but also because that's the homage to another 80s brand. Also, why has nobody ever done a Manny Faces repaint of either of the Blitzwings that can do that gimmick? That's freaking genius. Why has no one done it? Could Cybertron Dirt Boss probably work as a sixth member of the Stunticons, as he doesn't have to become a part of Menasor, but he can still interact with him because he isn't used much, and maybe in one story, Dirt Boss could be the Stunticons racing manager or even their off-roading support. And do you think that idea could work? Because, okay, this is getting very, very lengthy here. Essentially, like, would Dirt Boss work as a Stunticon? And actually, yeah, probably. I would go so far as to say you probably could make him part of the Combiner team. So, for instance, take the recent Legacy Menasor. Those just kind of stick on to the robot mode. So if you had him in like the Death Cobra position of just being like an alternate piece, what you would end up doing is having him come off of his wheels and take the place of one of the cars, probably on the leg, and then that wheel section would either unfold, you would either stay the way it is to become a shield, to go along with his sword, by the way, shield and sword Menasor, or you could have it transform so the tires make it look like some kind of big cannon, one or the other. You know, so that's your direction. That's what I would do. But yeah, like honestly, yeah, he kind of fits. He kind of fits. Is it accurate to say that Megatron has become the Transformers equivalent of Magneto? Only if you have some. It really depends on the fiction. Really depends on the fiction and how like the pre-war Transformer world is treated. You can paint Megatron like that, to the point where okay, you can kind of understand where he's coming from. You know, yeah, he's actually fighting for a just cause, but he's going about it the wrong way. Honestly, I feel like Megatron is depicted usually way too harshly to view the same way as Magneto. Magneto had a lot of different, you know, ultimately, Magneto wants the same thing as Charles Xavier, he just wants it in a different way. You know, he just wants, you know, freedom for mutants. Which does mean that every now and then they get along and they have a common goal, especially when there's a worse threat to mutant kind out there. You know, and it's one thing, like, Magneto has always had respect for Charles Xavier, even when they're on opposing sides. You know, Charles always views Magnus as his friend, even when they are opposed to each other. You know, but you don't have that same level of respect between an Optimus and a Megatron. You do have them, you know, these days, that if the storyline is right, you can pencil him in that position, but it really does depend on, like, how Megatron came up. Sometimes he can be sympathetic, sometimes he can just be a monster. Would you buy a new car from Swindle, Knockout, Hotshot, or Waspinator? But every time you buy one from Waspinator, a random Decepticon or Predacon destroys it. Why would I buy a car from Waspinator if it gets destroyed every time I do it? Why would I ever do that? Not Swindle. Not Swindle. Never Swindle. You never buy anything from Swindle. And probably not Hotshot because, like, I don't know, like, he doesn't have the experience to really know, like, what makes a good car. Knockout knows beauty. Knockout knows performance. He knows a good car when he sees it. I'm trusting his opinion. I am trusting his word. What do you like to do in the gym? Cardio, weights, or core exercises? So I think I mentioned at some point that I actually do enjoy the gym. I haven't had the chance to go in a long, long time. I will admit I'm probably like 40 pounds over what I should be. I could probably use a gym. But honestly, when I was in the gym, I liked weights. Like specifically, I like leg weight exercises. I can remember going to the gym with my mom once, and I had already done weight training in high school, so I had already built up muscle a little bit. I had already practiced like technique and how to like operate the machines, and like how to do the exercises properly. So I'm on so I'm like on a leg press, and there's a guy comes sit next to me. He's in shape. I'm not. Like he actually has visible muscles. I don't. But for whatever reason, like my leg strength has always been really, really good. Like way above like my upper body for some reason. So like I'm keeping up with him. Like he's doing 800-pound reps, and so am I. Like I think it was 600. My max on one press was 800 at one time. That was my best, but I think I was usually at like 600. And he's just the way my mom tells it. Like he just kept looking over at me, like, "Is this real? Is this overweight nerd really keeping up with me?" It's funny. So I guess wait. Let's see. Which of these obscure yet obvious retools would you like to see first, and which do you think are more likely to happen? Silver Vulcan-powered Black Arachnia and Purple Predacon Rhinox, G1 Ultramagnus Cyclonus and Wreck-Gar in negative universe colors, pre-Earth Cybertronic Armada cast. I feel like the Cybertronian Armada cast would be like the most interesting to do. They'd all just be retools of their most recent toys. But I'm not sure if they would really be like. I don't know. They'd be interesting to do, but I'm not sure if they'd be worthwhile to do. If that makes sense. The negative universe, honestly, like that's a deep cut, and I'll be honest with you, the colors aren't that great. Like Ultra Magnus has, like there's kind of these sickly colors on Ultra Magnus. I kind of like yellow Cyclonus with little hits of green, but that's about it. I don't think they look good, is the thing. I don't, like it's out there, but it doesn't really hit. Honestly, I am shocked that we do not have a Trigger Black Arachnia or a Predacon Rhinox. We have had 2, and now with the Masterpiece, 3 Rhinox molds that are based on the original Beast Wars character, and they've never done a purple repaint. They also never did a purple repaint of the original Rhinox toy either. So, like, what Hasbro? You had a whole episode. Devoted to him being a Predacon. Like, this is the most obvious thing in the world. It just shocks me. It shocks me that we've had 2 mainline modern Rhinox toys, and both of them are just have never been repainted. It's weird. I finally got around to reading the Beast Wars comic, the one with Nixon Scold. I don't think you've ever talked about them on the channel before. I was just curious what your opinion on them was. So I really do like those Beast Wars comics a lot. I do think it's kind of in a way that Skybound is currently doing. They went and took the original, like, origin point of that story and twisted it enough to make it really interesting. And it turns out very differently. I think partially because, when, like, IDW loses the, I think that was one of the victims of just like IDW is either doing too much. I can't remember the time frame that book came out. IDW was either doing too much at once and the book got chopped, or this might have been like when they were about to lose the license and they had to wrap it up. For whatever reason, that book doesn't feel like it should have ended where it ended. It felt like they could have done a lot more story. But I am happy with how those books came out. I like Nyx. Nyx is a fun character. And then Scold is an interesting character because she really doesn't feel like she belongs with the Predacons. She really does feel like, especially like, you know, like getting to know Razor Beast. Like, she feels like she was going to go over to the Maximals. But for whatever reason, she just had this, like, distrust or hatred of them. And she just never made that switch. Even though personality-wise, she never really fit in with the Predacons. And we never really got the explanation why. And I've always wanted to see that. I think she is an interesting character that I really would have liked to have seen fleshed out more. Fleshed out to the point of where I could have gotten a Skull toy, because I kind of want another Turtle Transformer. It's been a long time. If you could upgrade Titanium Megatron, what would you improve or do differently? He'd change everything. Correct. Like, Titanium Megatron is a toy I genuinely find no redeeming qualities to. At all. I think the sculpt is really dull. I think the tank mode is poorly designed. I think, I think the sculpting is bad. You know, the transformation is boring. You know, the articulation is bad. Like, everything about that toy was done wrong. There is no salvaging it. There is no saving it. There is no repairing it. It's a ship of Theseus. Because by the time I have replaced, repaired, improved this toy enough, it wouldn't be the original toy anymore, and it really is just a completely new beast. Yeah, like that's the real answer. I would change everything, because there's nothing on that toy I would want to keep. What's the optimal number of nights to spend at Freddy's? 0. That's the number of nights I would find optimal. You commonly make reference to how toy budgets and planning works. Would you have ever made a video to explain what years working around and behind the scenes have taught you about what goes on in producing a Transformers line? So, I've always been a little bit uncertain about doing that, because I don't want anything that I have heard to be incorrect. You know, I don't want to give you guys misinformation on that production process if I have something wrong, and it's not something that's easy to research. So it's not a video I'm comfortable making at the moment. Like, maybe if I get time enough to just sit down and just, like, figure the whole thing out, you know, and, like, make sure that all the ducks are in a row, maybe. But at the moment, not right now. I'd have to make sure a lot of my, like, knowledge is factually correct and not just piecemealed hearsay. Let's see. What would you think of a series where Seekers work like clones? Robot modes are identical, but they become different types of jets. We have talked about, there's a whole video I have about what to do with the Seekers, because the problem with Seekers is you can't get all 6 out in one toy line because they all look the same. They're all the same toy over and over. You'd flood the line with very similar toys. And that was basically my solution. Everyone has a similar looking robot, so they still look like a unit, but everyone has a different jet mode. I have been preaching that, you know, as a concept for the Seekers for a new series for a long, long time, and I will continue to preach it because it's a really, really good idea. When you do decide to quit YouTube, what video would you like to go out on? A simple goodbye video thanking your fans for all they've done. B, making a big showcase of your collection, or making a live stream you use somehow launching yourself into space to destroy the moon, or a combination of all three. Number 1, how dare you spoil my moon destruction plan? Jeez, I gotta think of something new now. Honestly, it's probably just gonna be a simple goodbye video. Like, I am not planning on making one anytime soon. You know, but if I ever did decide to quit YouTube and call it a career here on this website, it would just be a simple thank you to everybody who made the whole journey possible. Yeah, and it'd probably not even be one video. It'd probably be like a whole week of, like, like, here are my favorite Plastic Addict moments. Like, let's look back at my favorite videos, you know, etc., etc. Like, here's all the things that this channel's allowed me to do. That kind of thing. You know, so we've got, there's always things here. There's always more that we can do. But yeah, the final video would probably just be a thank you and a goodbye. You know, nothing over the top, nothing overstated, just simple, genuine. Dinobots have been on my mind as of recent, so I'm curious as to your thoughts. If extra Dinobots like Slash or Grimstone were revived today as proper solo G1 generation style bots, what size classes do you think Slash want them to be? The only one I got is Slash, who I think would be deluxe size due to her smaller Dino mode, while still matching Studio Series 86 figures. That is really the crux of it. They would have to match the Studio Series 86 figures in some way. So, like, there are some where you just can't avoid doing leader class. Like, I think if Slug and Snarl are going to be leader class, then so does Scar. You know, Scar as a big Ankylosaurus, he's got to match the others at leader scale. Now, when you're talking about, like, Grimstone, a Styracosaur, maybe leader? The thing is, like, Styracosaurs are about as big as, they're about as big as actual, like, Triceratops. You know, so, like, it would make sense to make him, like, leader class. But then again, like, character-wise, he's never been depicted as big. So, like, maybe you would have to go smaller if you're thinking character rather than beast mode accuracy. So maybe he'd be a Voyager, you know? I think you are spot on with Slash as a deluxe. But yeah, like, a lot of them would probably, like, if they're all G1 style, most of them would end up somewhere in the leader class. Like, Scorn would absolutely be leader class. So it's difficult. It's difficult to say on something like Grimstone. But a lot of the others, yeah, like leader or, in Slash's case, deluxe. Do you own any animation cells, or you ever thought of owning any? I don't, because I've always seen, like, where they are tricky to take care of. You have to keep them out of sunlight, keep them off of walls that are, like, prone to shaking. Like, if you have a door on that wall, or, like, there's, like, something like something on the other side of the wall that would rattle. You know, like the sliding door in a bathroom. So I've always steered away from it. But that said, like, if I could get an animation cell of G1 Blitzwing, if I get a cell of Slayers, my favorite anime, like, I've looked at those once in a while. I have actually looked up animation cells of some of my favorite stuff. Yeah, like, I wouldn't mind owning it if I knew if I knew I could properly take care of it and keep it from, like, getting hurt or anything. What do you think is the proper configuration for combiners containing 3, 4, 7, and 8 members? That really does depend on what you do with the characters. So, like, I don't think 3-part combiners generally work. I think Rail Racer's the only example that really did. You know, where one becomes legs, one becomes torso, and one's just kind of the connector piece between them. That worked out fine. Likewise, if you're doing a 4-piece, I do like how RID Landfill does things. I think that's a really genius combination. 7? Seven would probably be the Constructicons with, like, one extra piece in the torso. I'm not sure, like, how you even do a 7-piece combiner. I really don't know 8. I really don't know 8. But again, it depends on what you do with them. Like, if you want to do something akin to, like the movie Devastator, yeah, you'd probably have to have, like, 2 members per arm. You know, depending on what their designs are. Yeah, that's a weird question. That's a really weird question, because there really isn't a proper configuration. It's just about how well can you pull off the designs, what the design needs, you know? What is your favorite modern Soundwave Earth mode? Car, drone, or stealth bomber? And what do you think should have a different Earth mode? Honestly, I would say you say car is the evergreen. It's not really a car, it's an SUV, and there really isn't an SUV like dedicated transformer. You could say Skids, but Skids really isn't. He really isn't. He's a completely different type of car out of Japan. Stealth bomber would work again. It really depends. I think stealth bomber again. Like I've mentioned them many times now. Stealth bomber is one of those vehicle modes that Transformers uses once in a while, but no one is really the dedicated stealth bomber transformer. I do think that wouldn't be a bad fit for Soundwave. You know, provided you can engineer it to get his robot mode similar to how it looked in G1 while still making him a big flying wing. It's doable. It's doable. I want to see if Earthspark does a Soundwave that actually pulls that off before I commit to that as like, yeah, Soundwave should really be that. If they did the Invisible Man in Universe collab, which mold should they use? The funny one would be to use Mirage. Just for the lulls of like, oh, the invisible guy got to be the invisible man. Okay. I see what you did there. I'm hard-pressed because it's not like he gives off any kind of like personality that makes me think like, okay, that's the vehicle he is. Maybe he should be a stealth bomber. Do the Soundwave. Do like a modern Soundwave as a stealth bomber so you can retool it into the Invisible Man. Because, like, yes, like if you're going to go with that joke, make it a stealth vehicle. That's how that works. That's how that works. And then in robot mode, you could have like a robot-shaped head, but it still has like all the bandage wraps for the head instead of like actually sculpting a face and everything. With the movie popularity dying down, do you think that will affect the toy output soon? So here's the thing. Like, the level of Transformers that sell in between movies is still fine for Hasbro. In fact, sales were actually up this year for Transformers, just a little bit. But the fact that they are up is good news. Even on a year where a movie flopped. I don't think it will affect the toy output soon. I think what will affect the toy output is just them running out of ideas for studio series. I think that's what's going to affect the toy output before anything else. But I really think the movies just boost the popularity momentarily. I think the popularity maintains a nice level even when the movies are unpopular. So I don't think that's going to directly affect the output. What TF series has the best soundtrack? Cybertron's is really good. Or I should say Galaxy Forces. I think Galaxy Forces soundtrack is really good. Beast Wars. Beast Wars soundtrack does a really good job of setting the tone for its scenes. Those would probably be my two picks. I mean, Prime has good soundtrack here and there too. It's orchestral, which is great. That gives it so much gravitas sometimes. A month late, but what was your favorite Halloween candy as a kid? As a kid, it was probably like the little Three Musketeers. I've never been a peanut person. Like, I've never done nuts or coconuts, so any candy that had either, immediately gone. So I liked Three Musketeers. It's like simple and to the point. Just give me my chocolate. But, I mean, I think back to Smarties, which, the American chalk candy Smarties, not the chocolate candies that everyone else calls Smarties in the world. I think that was, like, the go-tos. And then, like, Staples, M&M's were always good. If they were to make a new Predaking toy, would you want the traditional G1 combiner or the Prime Universe version? I don't think that's how it works. Like, if they make a new Predaking toy, it's not just to reuse the trademark. They're going to pick one or the other of those two versions. Honestly, I probably would prefer the combiner just because they've improved their combiner tech so much. I wouldn't mind them going at that toy again. I like that toy. I like Titan Predaking. But I wouldn't mind a redo that might do things a little bit cleaner. We'll see. We'll see. I think like Prime Predaking, that's lofty. I wouldn't mind it, but I don't need it, you know? How many woodchucks woodchuck... Okay, that's not the actual tongue twister. Hang on. How many woodchucks would woodchuck if wood could chuck woodchucks? 28. I know. And I know. Like, it surprises me too, but that's just the fact. Are there any characters that have writing that you love but designs you hate? That is tricky. That's very tricky. I mean, I could say that of like transmutate, but the point of that design is to be ugly, so like so it gets the point across of the character. I feel like a lot of times the characters, like the designs really convey the characters very well. Transformers is usually really good about that. So if they tend to be well written, they tend to also come from a place of just being like really polished and enjoyable designs. There aren't many Transformers where I look at the design and go, God, why does it look like that? Why is it designed like that? Like, I think there's potential in things like Beast Machine's Silverbolt. I genuinely think there is, because like, what happens to the noble warrior who finds out he likes doing evil deeds? Like, that's mentally scarring, and I don't think Beast Machines did the best job writing it, but it does have a lot of good story potential. But yes, the design is awful. And I'm not even talking about the toy. Like, I just don't like the design in the show either. I think that's the closest I would get. I think that's the closest I get to an answer on that one. It's like, usually I like the designs. There's very few Transformer designs I just straight up hate. If G1 Transformers cartoon had a Christmas special, what would you want the story to be about? So, let's see. My throat is getting really dry tonight. So, I always liked that war story about the two sides, like, putting down their guns for Christmas and actually, like, crossing lines, exchanging pleasantries and small little gifts. I liked that. Like, I always liked that. It's like, that's one of those, like, yeah, we're all kind of human kind of stories. Like, we have different beliefs, we have different ideals, but, we can get along when the day is special. I kind of like that. I wouldn't mind there'd be, like, okay, like, this is Primus Day. Like, this is the day Cybertron was born. This is the day Cybertron was built, or came online, or whatever. Or, like this is the day of the 13, when the 13 came online. And this day, this, like, solar cycle, this one moment in the solar cycle is precious to both sides, to the point where it's like, Starscream just is, like, okay, Starscream's just, like, doesn't feel right trying to overthrow Megatron today, so he's on good behavior. Megatron does not like, does not want to spoil, like, this is a sacred day even for Decepticons, so, like, there is no war today. I don't think it goes as far as, like, we're going to meet in the middle, shake hands, and just kind of like pretend like we're all like okay with each other. You know, it's a 4 million-year-old war. Like, they don't have those points anymore. But, like, I wouldn't mind some kind of story where, like, Autobots and Decepticons had to do something together. Maybe, like, a greater good thing where, like, just for this day, Megatron does not want the moment ruined. So he actually does have to do, like, so he actually has to, like, back up the Autobots in some way. You know, and then it's just like, you know, like Happy 13 Day and they part ways. You know, and you can have little celebratory things, like, there's a gift exchange for the Autobots because the human allies have like taught them about Christmas, so they want to share that tradition. Megatron celebrates by not shooting any of his own men. That's his idea of being nice. That's his gift giving. I'm not going to assault any of you today. How would you feel about an Ultra Magnus story where he becomes the Fallen after his envy of Rodimus becoming Prime overtakes him? So, honestly, that's not Ultra Magnus's character in the least. What you have done is written a completely new character. Ultra Magnus is very much about duty, and remember, he never wanted the Matrix in the first place. So I don't like. There is no universe I can envision where Ultra Magnus is actually envious of Rodimus to the point of like wanting to like falling to evil. But also remember, the Fallen is a Lucifer allegory. Like, he's literally Transformer Satan. So you're not going to have Ultra Magnus, a modern character, become the Fallen. So neither of those concepts works for either of those characters, unfortunately. So I'm for that one. I'm not on board for. Have you ever wanted two Transformer characters to fight that haven't fought before? I would love to see Prime Dreadwing versus Skyquake. I think that would be cool and emotional. Like the Decepticons versus each other. Dreadwing and Prime was super close to becoming an Autobot. Like, he was almost there. He's right on the cusp. So if Skyquake stuck to evil, yeah, you might have actually seen brothers come to blows. There are characters like that. Like, you'd have to change sizes, but I would love to see, like, Dinobot versus Starsaber to see who the better swordsman is. Or Armada Starscream and Starsaber. When they're both, when Starscream is using the Starsaber against Starsaber. There's the fight. There's the fight. Do you think the Legacy line is the last time we'll see non-G1 characters? I would like a new figure from Prime RC and Soundwave. No, absolutely not. They know that they have money in all those other franchises. I think this fear came a lot from John Warden getting brought back because he was very much G1 centric. He's gone now. But it seems like the last few years of Transformers has done a lot to prove that there is a market for Beast Wars, there is a market for the Unicron trilogy, and clearly from the HasLab, there's a market for RID 2001. Now that they have proof that that money and interest is there, they ain't going to abandon it. It's more for them to tap. They know they can trickle out Armada characters for the next 5 years, and people will buy it bit by bit by bit to build up a modern Armada collection. So no, you are absolutely going to continue to see non-G1 characters. We know for at least the next 2 years you will. Who's your favorite Decepticon commander that isn't Megatron? Does Galvatron count? I do kind of like some of the twists they do to Deathsaurus. Like, he's been more interesting at times, like especially in like the manga depiction of Deathsaurus, where he's a little bit more honorable and he's actually willing to lay down arms. Magmatron can fall into that same vein. Magmatron can kind of fall into that same vein sometimes too. Beyond that, Tarn. Tarn is a very easy answer for that. I'm trying to think if there's anyone out of the norm that I could go for. It's like well known. God, there's so many Megatrons. Yeah, I'm having a hard time. Like that's generally the go-to. That's generally the commanders. I've seen good Starscream commanders written too, where Starscream had leadership too. So like again, it's gonna depend on writing for some of them. Who are 3 characters you would like Hasbro to shine a little more light on in any or all forms of media? I think Blitzwing's an obvious one there. He has not had genuine screen time since animated, and I think that's a sin. Reflector, because I think Reflector has really interesting character possibilities that they've never really tapped. And I could say the exact same thing for Nightbeat. Nightbeat is just like screaming to be a character in a cartoon or a movie. Like he would work. He could give you an interesting thing. Like you have a detective to work with. You know. So yeah, like there's so many. There's so many I would like to see a better spotlight on. With John Warden being let go, what was one of your personal favorite figures he's worked on? I will admit, I don't follow the designers very much, so off the top of my head, especially because it's very late, I've had a very long day, I don't have one off the top of my head. I know that's an unsatisfying answer, I do apologize for that, but, yeah, I don't know them by heart, unfortunately. If I'm thinking just like, because I know he worked during like the Titan Return line, so we're gonna end up talking like toys like Generations Warpath, like Top Spin, and I don't even know how much control or influence he had over any of those toys. I'm just naming off toys I know were around during his time. Okay, since Beast Wars Scorponok has become the go-to for Predacon cannon fodder akin to Seekers, Autotroopers, and Viacons thanks to the War for Cybertron trilogy and Rise of the Beast, what do you think would serve as the maximal equivalent? I'm not sure if Scorponok is the go-to. We've seen it twice. And honestly, it was a mistake for them to do it in the Kingdom series. I really think it happened during Rise of the Beast because of movie Scorponok, not because of Beast Wars Scorponok. But if I'm going, like, to pick a maximal for that, like, if, my immediate thought is actually Armadillo. Because Maximals would be far more concerned with defensive positions rather than being an assault force. So I would imagine they would be something that would be far more armored and far more defensive. So I think Armadillo is a good start for that. I've seen you make videos, change plans in a day, corresponding with new leaks or events in the fandom. How do you do it? Seriously, kind of want to do this YouTube thing myself, so anything helps. Do you use something specific to edit? Shoot. So, honestly, like, I keep things as simple as possible so that I can be very responsive. So like if something comes up, if I hit a really good video idea, or if there's like a news topic that I think is going to be really hot, and I'd like to hit it while the iron's hot. Yeah, like I can develop, produce, edit, and post a video in a single day. And I really just do it by keeping it as simple as possible. I'm using a normal webcam. I'm using a Blue Yeti microphone that's readily available on Amazon. And I am using OBS, which is typically a streamer's tool, but you can have it record video off of a webcam, and you can have it record your screen, or have a slideshow of images. So I'm using OBS to do a lot of the heavy lifting, and everything beyond that is just making sure that your stuff is set up properly. You know, if your microphone is set up correctly, you don't have to do any kind of noise removal or anything. If your webcam is set correctly, you don't really have to do color correction. The same is true if you're doing like shoots of a review, like a toy review or something. You know, as long as the settings are correct, save yourself as much time in the edit process as possible. I will admit I use Premiere Pro for editing because I've been using it for like a decade now in various forms. Like I'm just so used to the program, I don't want to learn a new one. And all my presets and templates are in Premiere Pro, like years worth that I do not want to redo in Sony Vegas. I admit the tool is way overpowered, but every now and then that extra power comes in handy, so I'd rather have it than not have it. So yeah, so that's kind of the process. A lot of the shooting right now is, OBS. And like everything you see, like the picture of like my, of my web browser, my webcam, the overlay, all of that's just OBS in layers. So I don't have to really edit this in any way unless I really want to. So you keep it as simple as possible by making sure your setup is as clean and complete, in recording. And that way you don't have to spend all day in the edit. What G1 episode would you say is the absolute worst, and is there anything you do to fix it? We had a whole video on what the worst episode was, and the two nominees are usually Bot and Carnage in C minor. And the only thing for Bot is terribly written, terribly scripted, terrible concept. Not a terrible concept, but terrible execution. But the thing about Bot is that it's the best episode for showing off Swindle's personality. Someone who literally sold off his teammates' parts for spare money. Yeah, I give that episode credit simply because it used Swindle and it showed Swindle's character. But whereas Carnage in C minor, I think, did no character any favors. The animation is probably the most error-laden episode in all of Transformers. The new characters are terribly designed. They have this like weird like sing-song voice. It's very repetitive because the characters speak in clearly sung English, but still English, and then gets translated back into English. So the episode is very repetitive sounding. It's a very ugly episode. The planet they go to is very ugly. There is a concept there that could work, but man, you would have to, like, if you want to fix that episode, you got to reanimate it from the ground up. There is a scene in that episode where Galvatron and Soundwave are flying while holding hands. And if I thought Galvatron was capable of it, it would be kind of romantic, given how long those two have been together. But no, like, yeah, that episode has to be scrapped and redone from the ground up in order to be fixed. Again, Ship of Theseus. There's so much wrong with it, but that by the time it's fixed, it's not the same episode anymore. Do you prefer the surname Prime or Convoy? Considering Convoy is specifically named after a line of trucks, I prefer Prime. Prime sounds like a rank. Prime sounds like it has authority behind it. Convoy is just kind of, his traditional Japanese Diaclone name, because back then he was just a truck, so we named him after a truck term. Let's see, since you'll be answering this question in December, I want to revise my advent calendar ideas from a couple months back. Let's see, to recap, 3 weaponizers, 8 parts each. Each part works as a weapon, combined mode. Are there any themes you'd like to see for these hypothetical advent calendars? You don't have to elaborate on them. Junkion is based on abandoned Arctic vehicles. Interesting to see. A thought in my mind was going to be like Armorizer that has like a lot of frozen elements to it. Not, you couldn't do clear plastic because the way those toys work, it wouldn't survive. But you could make some like frosty white figure, like hits of ice blue here and there. It's not a bad idea. I would definitely make it some kind of like Arctic theme thing, or like, like if if like if a Centurion drone came up like Santa or elf colored, you know, and like everything was kind of like, you could have fun with it. You can have fun with it that way. It's not a bad idea. It really isn't. You know, you just have to make sure it's a weaponizer that works really well as individual weapons for a Transformer. And I think the biggest thing, day one would have to be a Transformer toy, like a full deluxe. And then you would have, like, you know, and then you would have, like, because you'd want to have one toy that weaponizer works with. You know, so maybe not like 3 weaponizers and 8 parts, maybe 2 deluxes, 1 Autobot, 1 Decepticon, and then like 1 Autobot weaponizer, 1 Decepticon weaponizer. And you can have like Santa and Krampus theme. In a Patreon video request, would you ever do a video in the style of another Transformers toy reviewer like Vangelis or Thu? No. Number one, because I respect Vangelis and Thu. I don't want to step on their thing. I don't want to tread on their ground. I want to be me. I don't want to be Vangelis or Thu even for a one-off video. I want to be me. I want to do videos the way I enjoy doing them. So probably not. I would probably turn that down, mostly out of respect for the other reviewer. You know, like I would not want to copy your format just because someone paid me to do it. In fact, being paid to plagiarize someone else's format, I think is far worse. When you think about it like that, absolutely not. That would not go over well. Which original characters from non-G1 series would you like to see return? Lugnut, Crumplezone, Nautica, etc. Lugnut would be really, really good. I'd really like to see a Lugnut again. If you're going to do Crumplezone, Ransack has to come with them. They're Bulk and Skull. You have to include both of them. You can't do just one. We already talked about Nautica. I'd love to see a new Nautica. If I'm going for like original characters from non-G1 series, I'm really like I really want to like. I think the one that comes to mind first really is Sideways. You know, we did a whole video about Sideways being a very underutilized character. I think there'd be a lot of room for working a new one in. Especially these days, if you do like a better written show than Armada, where you drag out the betrayal a little bit further so it hurts worse for the cast when it happens. What if Sludge had a high intelligence? Then he'd probably be an artificer or a wizard. He's a little bit big for the role, but nothing says body type depends on your class, you know? Really, in G1, it would just mean he's smart. That's really the baseline to it. That's really all there is. Like, if Sludge had high intelligence, he'd be smart. I don't think it'd change who he is that much. I don't think it'd change any major dynamics. He'd just be the smart Dinobot. Out of at least what I consider the modern kid toy lines, RID 2015, Cyberverse, Earthspark, Bumblebee, Rise of the Beast 1. Which was your favorite lineup, ignoring the media surrounding it? So just on the toys, you know, excluding media, Cyberverse is, well, see, here's the thing. If we're judging based on the toy line, then I have to judge everything, and like, I think the one-step stuff got better as it evolved, so I think the best stuff for one step is like out of Earthspark and 1, but then again 1 had a bunch of retreaded old toys, and Earthspark has those stupid little finger puppets that nobody bought. So it's a tough question. I think Cyberverse had some like okay warrior figures, but some bad ones. The deluxes were better. RID had probably the better warrior figures because they had more budget, you know, 10 years ago. But, you know, maybe not the most, like, satisfying gimmicky toys, and they didn't get a deluxe line. Like, it's kind of tricky. It's kind of tricky. honestly, I would probably say Rise of the Beasts, because a lot of those like core series figures, like the deluxe, like the lower deluxes that were supposed to be the main line but only came out in like 3-packs and like overseas releases, a lot of those ended up being my favorite toys out of that series. You know, like I actually really liked Mirage as that toy. I liked that one better than the Studio series. The Air Razor was one of my toys of the year. It's a really, really good toy. The Rhinox, I thought the Rhinox they did for that line felt way better and was way more interesting than the one that actually came out. I'm still kind of regretting my Walmart a few months ago actually got in like the core series Optimus Primal, which I heard was really good, and I wish I had grabbed it. That's not an invitation for anyone to send me one, by the way. I would probably say Rise of the Beasts. Well, no. I can't say I can't even say Rise of the Beast because they had those stupid rubber band things that nobody bought. That's a really hard question because I don't think there's any that did it really, really well. Like I don't know, like put a fusion can into my head, I might say Earthspark, because I do think that most of the Warrior toys are good enough to buy, and then the deluxes are pretty decent. Especially a lot of the more recent ones. Yeah, like I think the one-step changers are a little bit more interesting than they used to be. That kind of thing. I think I have to go with that. I think I had to go with Earthspark on that one. God, that took way longer than I thought. Excluding those that already share names, what are a couple of Transformer names that would work as My Little Pony names, and the other way around? You're asking me to know My Little Pony names, and frankly, I don't. I don't know. Like, outside of the main 6, because those are names you just can't get away from, I genuinely don't know any My Little Pony names. So, unfortunately, I cannot answer that one. I genuinely have no idea. For Transformers, Mach Kick is such an easy answer. But I don't, like, the trick to that is, like, there aren't a whole lot of, like, light and fluffy names in Transformers. Like, there aren't really any characters where, like, the name is just feels like that sounds My Little Pony-ish. Like, that could work. Honestly, your closest one is probably Moonracer. I could see Moonracer being like a Rainbow Dash type who like is more built, more designed in like dark colors, like more nighttime themed. That might be the only one. So Overlord has his 2 alt modes where he splits, and there is his other mode where he is a jet with tank parts. So what would be another idea for a mode that is an actual vehicle that reflects his strength and menace? So it is. We want to make this clear that the jet with tank parts is a fan mode. There's no official depiction that I know of that's like that. I don't remember him transforming an IDW to show me if they actually did that there. I can only remember moments where Overlord was a 2-part piece in official media. But another mode that's like a vehicle that reflects his strength and menace, I really think you would have to invent something. Like, it would have to be like a genuine like tank that incorporates parts of the like Blackbird jet mode he has. You would need some kind of like mix. Like, you would need something that you would need some kind of like artificially created vehicle. You know what would work? Weirdly enough, Die Atlas's vehicle mode would work. Because that literally is a tank and jet mixed together. You could absolutely retool that into a vehicle that would work for a single piece Overlord. But as far as like real vehicles, there really isn't any. There really isn't any. Like, how do you get more menacing than a tank and a Blackbird? So between Tara Strong and Erica Lindbeck, who is your favorite VA? Probably Tara Strong. I just know her from way more things, and she's just been a much more present, much stronger presence in my, like in the things that I have watched over the years. For a while there, she was one of those VAs who was so popular and prolific, you really couldn't get away from her, which is just a credit to her talent. If Hasbro were to make a new Shattered Glass figures line again, but not as an overpriced Pulse exclusive line, which would you have it as? Exclusive retail store line, i.e. Star Raiders, Velocitron, Speedia, Buzzworthy. An Amazon exclusive line. Or just put them in select line like they did Shattered Glass, Optimus, and Ratchet. You would probably do an Amazon exclusive line. The only time I really think those Shattered Glass toys sold really well was probably the Ratchet pack, because I think that was an Amazon exclusive, and that did fine. It did fine. Don't select that. The Pulse line was overpriced because in order to actually somewhat mimic the original vehicle modes that some of those characters had, they had to throw in a ton of new parts. These days, you have much better options. We've got a Cybertron Starscream mold that's brand new that they could use for a Shattered Glass Starscream today. And I'm just clicking my mouse on a ton of things by accident. You have Ironhide toys that would work for a Shattered Glass Soundwave now. You have better options. And I would love to see them do options that are way more accurate. You have Cybertron's Hotshot with a brand new toy. Do BotCon Bumblebee. Please do BotCon Bumblebee. Or Goldbug, I should say. I got too excited there. Got the name wrong. I would do it as an Amazon line, though. That'd be me. And it wouldn't, even if they did a Pulse exclusive, if they were just sticking to the characters they could easily repaint or just like a head swap retool, it wouldn't be as expensive as they were before, because they wouldn't need all those extra parts. Which of the Seekers needs more fiction to flesh them out? My vote goes to Ion Storm, the Blue Rainmaker, since Acid Storm and Nova Storm have become more and more prominent, to the point where it's canon that Nova is female and G1 now. Is Nova G1 and female now? Did we, really, cross that line? Because to my knowledge, even Slipstream doesn't have a G1 incarnation, technically. I don't know. I think that goes back to Dirge, who really doesn't get to do anything. Honestly, Ramjet maybe too. The Coneheads really are just kind of grunt fodder a lot of the time. The main three get most of the attention. If we're going even deeper, Red Wing. Red Wing is a Seeker who literally exists because of a confusion over who was releasing Sunstorm as a toy. That's the only reason that toy exists, because of a coloring choice to try and avoid accidentally doubling up Sunstorms. So he really just exists as a weird happenstance in Transformers. But you really don't have any character behind him. He's just, I don't know, he's a Red Seeker named after a hockey team. I don't have a really good Megatron in my collection. What do you think is the best modern Megatron that's still a reasonable price? That's so tricky. Because so many of the modern Megatrons are just Siege retools. And the ones that came before that really aren't all that great. If you want a modern Megatron right now, I would probably say, I'd probably try maybe looking for the Titan's Return. I don't know how high that one is. I know a lot of Titan Return toys have gotten really high in price, but that was always kind of like a time filler Megatron, because it was a pre-tool of Blitzwing. And lots of Megatrons have come out since that are more show accurate. But I do think that mold works well as a Megatron toy. And it's a fun toy in general. Not, accurate to him, but, if you want a gun Megatron, or there was a repaint of the Classics one as a Platinum release alongside an Optimus Prime. I don't know how expensive that one's gotten lately, so that is an option. if you can wait, I guarantee you we're going to get a Studio Series 86 Megatron that's going to be way, way more screen accurate. It will be a tank, but it will look a lot better. So my advice to you, if you still don't have a really good Megatron in your collection, give it some time. Give it like, if you can wait 6 months, I think we will see. I'm guessing we'll see one. I don't think it's going to be, after 86 Optimus went over so well, I don't think they're going to sit on Megatron for much longer. Would you say Blockies are better than, worse than, or as fun as Action Masters? I'd say they're a lot more fun than Action Masters. I mean, they don't have a transforming companion, but they do articulate way better than Action Masters. They're sculpted and painted better than Action Masters. It's fun to put them together. Also, Action Masters suffer from the same fault as a lot of G.I. Joes from the 80s, i.e., their rubber-banded hips. So unless you like replacing O-rings, don't really go for Action Masters if Blockies are available. Have you heard of this niche, obscure Transformers character named Optimus Prim? Optimus Prim, stupid name. I don't know. I don't get into those Brazilian Transformers. So next year we're getting Star Convoy, Omega Prime, and possibly Hearts of Steel Optimus. Which version of Optimus Prime do you think will get a modern toy next? When did you hear about a Hearts of Steel Optimus Prime? That's news to me, actually. That would be insane. That would be insanity. Man, I would love that. That'd be weird of them to randomly pull. That feels like when they're really scraping the bottom of the barrel for Studio Series and decide that comic book studios count too. Which version of Optimus Prime do you think will get a modern toy next? Who's on the docket? See, it's really just a matter of, like, who is due that hasn't been done yet. I mean, if we're talking like any kind of convoy, then probably Big Convoy. He's the only one out of Beast Wars Cybertrons that has not been done yet. I bet on him being pretty close. Who else? We did animated. A Prime Optimus Prime would be good too. You know, especially like if they do push the Prime figures a little bit more, because we got a Bulkhead no one liked, we got an RC nobody liked. I think that might have cut that down. That might have cut down the chance of like a Prime happening. They have to go back to the drawing board on like what people want to have a modern Transformer Prime. So my bet would be either Big Convoy, but if you're looking for strictly an Optimus Prime, I wouldn't put it past them to make the Cybertron one either a Commander class or potentially another small-scale Titan, the way that we're looking at Star Saber to be. Or Star Convoy, rather. Would a Transformer who turns into a turkey would work as a toy? I mean, you could absolutely make anything work as a Transformer toy. Would it work and be viable at the market? Probably not. But you could absolutely figure out how to get a Transformer, a robot, into a turkey body. Absolutely. Do you think Nexus Prime could be a Titan in one of the other years of Age of the Primes as maybe a new mold, or is he likely to be a Gen Selects release and reuse of Aerial Bots and Combaticons? I am really betting he is going to be Aerial Bots and Combaticons. I don't think it's an accident that, you know, Age of the Primes Year 1 is giving us Aerial Bots and Year 2 is giving us Combaticons. We did learn from Hasbro's statements that Age of the Primes is a 2-year toy line rather than a trilogy. That could change. But right now their plan is to get all 13 Primes out in the next 2 years. Vector's already out. We've seen Megatron. We've seen the Fallen. We've seen the leaks of Prima. My bet here is that we're probably going to get a Gen Selects release or a Titan release, for Nexus Prime out of Aerial Bots and Combaticons. That's the bet I have going right now. We've seen a two-faced Quintesson in G1, and the five-faced judges seem to be occupying higher positions in Quintesson society. You think there might be other Quintessons with multiple faces, perhaps four-faced, three-faced Quints. It'd be interesting if that's how the Quintessons stratify their society. The more faces you have, the higher you're standing. So yeah, like, we have the answer below. There have been three-faced Quintessons. There have been, technically, in Energon, we had a four-faced. But if we're talking about one continuity, if the five-faced Quintessons are really, like, the high echelon, it is because, keep in mind, all five of them represent a different personality. All five represent a different mind. Meaning, if you have five different faces, then you've got a lot more brain power to tap, which is how your hierarchy, your society, kind of gets its little caste system. So if it is based on like logic and intelligence, then yeah, like five faces is going to beat three. So like if you ever want to introduce a Quintesson like high command type character, like an overall leader of the entire race, six faces. Six faces, it's just how it goes. Do you plan on getting all 13 primes or just your favorites? Since it's the first time the primes are all going to have toys, I'm probably going to get the entire 13. Which so far, the ones we've seen so far, actually look pretty interesting. Like, they are that breath of fresh air I'm kind of looking for. I recently acquired some older Transformers, Unicron Trilogy, 07 movie. They have been stored in a non-air-conditioned shed in the south for well over a decade, but all the toys, including the translucent plastic, have held up very well with no signs of distress. Was there any era of Transformers toys that didn't have the issues with translucent plastic, or did I just get lucky? You probably did kind of get lucky. A lot of people who tell me that like I'm overblowing the clear plastic thing will tell me, oh no, that's just like a regional thing. Like it has to do with like your atmosphere and your climate. No, it doesn't. I've had clear plastic problems myself here in Florida. I've known Canadians with it. I've known people in California with it. It's a universal thing. The only era that didn't really have issues with clear plastic is Generation 1, because it was used sparingly, and the material back then was much tougher. Unicron Trilogy didn't really have many issues with clear plastic either. So in that, yeah, that one's probably fine. 07 movie did use a lot of clear plastic, but not in the way that would really cause a lot of problems. There might be a few figures with hinges you might want to check, but for the most part, like those lines are a little bit safer than others. I would say once you got into like more complex figures in Revenge of the Fallen, that's when you start worrying a little bit more about clear plastic. If you had Beast Machines toys, I would worry more about clear plastic. This is a Transformers question that I feel like is just right up your alley. How would you do a Scooby-Doo crossover with Transformers? If this feels like an episode idea, just say you're doing it as an episode. I'm not huge on Scooby-Doo. What I would probably do, I would make the Ghost of the Week Ghost Starscream. And then, like, work backward to figure out, like, who exactly I would make, like, the one who's really under the mask. Like, the one who's pretending to be dead Starscream. And then, of course, if they do a crossover, at some point the Mystery Machine has to transform as well, right? You just have to. I don't know. I wouldn't do it as a full episode, but, like, That's essentially what it would be. It's like someone is faking a ghost of Starscream to chase off the Autobots. In the Power of the Prime vote, what do you think they would have done for Hound, RC, or Death Stars? We recently did a video about this, and I can't remember if I came up with that video idea on my own, or if I read this question when it hit my inbox and just accidentally remembered it for a video one day. Though I want to say that was based on a conversation that was going on in my Discord at the time. Patreon.com/TJOmega. Pitch in if you want to join my Discord. So we've done a whole video about this, so you can go watch if you did not see that video. I think that video is going to answer your question pretty well. See, what are your hopes and expectations for the upcoming Voyager Alpha Trion Age of the Primes? You think it'll be G1 inspired, Titans Return inspired, Align inspired? Should you have ship mode, line mode, or both? G1 inspired. So he's definitely going to be G1 inspired, because it seems like they're going with all the most well-known versions of the 13. So, and yes, jeez, really dry tonight. The Heroes Born 2-pack, the repainted Scourge. Yeah, that's kind of close. But really, you want like a proper G1. You want that proper design with a proper cape, and all that. It's definitely going to be a spaceship. The lion thing is good for, like some Alpha Trions, but, if you're going to do Generation 1 inspired, there's literally no reason to base him off an Earth animal. So yeah, it's going to be a spaceship. It's going to be G1 inspired. I think that's kind of necessary instead of just constantly getting weird retools. Just make the Alpha Trion toy that should have existed to begin with. Let's see. What are your thoughts on when a G1 character gets a beast mode, like the third-party Bull Sideswipe and Bird Starscream, or the various concepts for a T-Beast art book from the T-Beast art book? I do think it's an interesting thought experiment. Number one, I don't remember there being a Bird Starscream. I think when you mention that, I vaguely remember one, but I don't think it looked nearly as good as the Bull Sideswipe. I have Red Bull. It's a really good toy. It's a really good toy. There's a black and gold version now, too. I wish I waited for that one. But I've seen some of the artwork from the T-Beast. I think a lot of it's inspired. I still want a third-party company to try to do that Blitzwing that's a hawk and a turtle. Because that's such a good idea. And it looks like it would work. It looks like it would actually function. What identity would you give to the 13th Prime if you had to give them a specific one? For me personally, I don't really like him just being Optimus Prime, but that's just me. I like maybe the other way around, where like the 13th Prime is mysterious, not because he's going to become Optimus Prime, but because he's an aspect of Primus. I would actually put the 13th Prime as like maybe a herald, or just like, no, not a herald, but like a proxy of Primus himself, where it's something that allows him to watch over. Like, it's like something that, like, not a real Transformer, essentially. Like, one that he kind of projects his own consciousness into and controls remotely. So he can walk amongst the 13, make sure everything's going well on the planet that he has just created. Something along that line. Which explains why he vanished mysteriously and why no one really knows his name. Because, God's walking among us. Why would he reveal himself? Did the young Autobot Design for Greatness story work better with Hot Rod, Bumblebee, or Hot Shot? It depends on the fiction. Here's the thing. I don't think Bumblebee was ever poised as a character destined for greatness. I just think he happened to be a very popular G1 character they wanted to make sure was in the live-action movies. Because let's remember, Bumblebee did next to nothing in Season 3 of the cartoon. He's literally only in, like, 2-3 episodes. It's really not that much. He didn't do anything until 2007 after that, and then he's just kind of this warrior. He's not aspiring to leadership. Even in Prime, when he kind of becomes a de facto leader in RID 2015, it does not really feel like destined for greatness type. I think it works best with Hot Rod, but not not Hot Shot. Not Hot Shot. I do not think that was handled well at all. I think it works better for Hot Rod, but not G1 Hot Rod. G1 Hot Rod is a little too rushed. And really wasn't given the proper shakedown it deserved because the writers were so back and forth on whether or not Hot Rod was maturing once he was Rodimus. The Hot Rod who did it well is Cyberverse. Go watch Cyberverse. He is the turbo-revving young punk when you first see him, and then after the Quintessons invade, he actually does step up. You know, and he kind of hits that maturity level and that command level that you kind of wanted a Rodimus to always hit at some point. Like, I think his rise up is even better than the one from IDW, because he, again, is a Hot Rod that never really learned to grow up all the way. So yeah, it's a weird answer, but like I think that's valid. Do you see Ultra Magnus returning as a prevalent character in more major media, or is his character archetype just not very popular? I'm not sure if it's his archetype is not very popular as much as it is there's very rarely room for both Optimus Prime and Ultra Magnus on the shelf at once, because they would both be big truck transformers, and it's not actually very common for them to be the same toy anymore. So you'd be hard pressed to get both in at the same time, mostly just because there's no room on the shelf for both at the toy store. I don't think it has anything to do with this character archetype. It wouldn't be bad. Like, I think he's overdue to be in a movie. Let's put it that way. See, Monster just released a new flavor based on the Miami Vice City 80s neon motif, and now I'm curious how you feel about that laser synth palm tree vibe, and if you would ever consider rocking that look. You are an 80s kid, a Floridian. I could totally see you wearing an all-white leisure suit and neon undershirt and aviators. I never want to wear that. I never want to wear that. I am only technically an 80s kid. I'm really a 90s kid. I was way too young in the 80s to really count as an 80s kid and really understand like what was going on and what anything was at the time. I think like the laser synth, like the synthwave thing, like I think it's a cool look visually. I would never rock it myself. I don't think I could pull that off. Favorite X-Men and why? Wolverine would be too easy. Weirdly enough, when I was watching the cartoon as a kid, my favorite was always Jubilee. And, you know, mostly because, like, I like an underdog character sometimes. And especially when you read the comics, Jubilee is one of those characters that has tremendous potential. And every now and then shows just how powerful and, you know, just how effective she could be. Like, one of those characters, like, if she took it seriously, and if she really learned what she was doing, she could be incredibly powerful. Probably the same reason I like Michelangelo so much from the Ninja Turtles. Because he's the goofball, he's the slacker, but he's still keeping up with the rest of his brothers. Meaning if he actually tried, he would be the greatest of all four of them. You know, and we saw that in like the 2000s Ninja Turtles series. You know, becoming like the Nexus champion and beating Cyber Shredder solo, things like that. Do you think Mando's N1 Starfighter is going to be a one-off figure? If it sells well, no. If it does really good sales numbers, they'll absolutely do more. If we get a new Rescue Bots Boulder in the age of the Primes, do you think he could be retooled into Armada Scavenger or vice versa? Most likely. They do have they have a very similar body type, but they also have very similar color schemes. That would actually be very tricky. Like, how would you separate the two enough to make it really feel like they were individual toys of each other? That's a trick. That's a trick. I feel like due to notoriety and nostalgia, you might see the opposite around. I think you would see an Armada Scavenger toy done first, and then as like a Selects release or something, you'd see it retooled into Boulder. I think that's the direction it would go in. Megatron, Galvatron, Magmatron, and a Magmortar enter together in a bar. Finish the joke. McAdam kicks them all out for bringing a pet into the bar. I don't see a joke there. I apologize. I'm terrible at walk into a bar jokes. It's unsatisfying, I know. What if the Action Masters are considered more alive because they have organic organs, and that's also why they can't transform? That's gross. I don't think anything you do to an Action Master is going to make them grow fleshy bits. I think more alive has always just kind of meant, I mean, in the toys, it's always meant like more flexible. You know, they feel more like genuine action figures. But when it comes to like canonically, the more alive part, I have theories, I have fanfics in my head. I can't even remember if I've explained them. Like, I feel like they fall somewhere into, like, the what happened between G1 and Beast Wars. And we might go into that at some point. But, no, it's kind of gross. If they had organic parts, like, they would die from just a couple of gunshots. Like, how would that work? Like, why would that wouldn't be more effective in a fight? If two Autobots from Energon were to get new figures with the Power Link gimmick intact, which two would they be? For me, it would be Hotshot and Prowl. The truth is, it would be the most notable ones. It would be Hotshot and Inferno. That, or maybe Hotshot and Rodimus. One of those pair. It would definitely be Hotshot, because everyone knows that one desperately needs a new toy. But much as I love Prowl, I think you have to have a Rodimus out first to make him viable. Because character-wise, he's a nothing. He's a really cool design, but character-wise, he's a nothing. What was your favorite story from the Dreamwave comics? Can I even remember the Dreamwave comics well enough? I mean, I liked the Sunstorm idea. I liked that. That was a fun concept. I kind of liked the first War Within. I liked. You know, introducing the Fallen and all that. I think that might be the best. Yeah, like, it's hard for me to remember Dreamwave. At some point, I want to go back, reread, just so I can do videos about the Dreamwave era of the comics. But that's on the back burner for now. Right now, I can't really remember that well. What if Soundwave did a Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You cover? Then I would have to lock him away for the rest of the year. What is your favorite tree? I did say you could ask me anything as long as it's within TOS. Maybe a weeping willow. I don't know. They always just look really interesting to me. Like, more interesting than normal trees. Certainly more interesting than any Floridian tree. In line with Hotshot being a potential Matrix bearer in Armada, could the RID-01 Sideburn be considered as a future Matrix bearer as well? No! Absolutely not. The thing is, Armada Hotshot, they do try to convey that there is like some kind of leadership potential in him. You know, like, because in a pinch he does make, because in a pinch he is capable of making a solid decision. But that's not Sideburn. Not every Kid Appeal character has leadership qualities. Sideburn is a goof off. Sideburn's a show off. He's not leadership material. Not even remotely close. What do you think of a gift set sold of Menasor as the Autobots from the episode, where they disguise them as in repainting Motormaster into Optimus, Mirage, Dragstrip, etc.? You know, the weird thing is they did Combiner War toys where everyone was kind of like, where like they took all like where they took a lot of the G1 mainstays, the 84 cast, and turned them into Combiner characters. I don't think they did a Masquerade set. I don't think there is enough, because I think Sideswipe was one of them, because there's 2 Lamborghinis involved. I don't remember the Masquerade cast perfectly, but I know that Combiner Wars dropped the ball and did not do those 5 as a combiner. It'd be a neat idea. It'd be a neat throwback. You know, Optimus would look really weird in Motormaster's mold, but, you know, you could probably do something to make it work. Have we ever gotten a Transformer combiner that has an alt mode? Like, they would separate as normal, but they would also have an additional alt mode. That would be extraordinarily difficult. The engineering on that would be monstrous, especially when you consider most combiners are based on, like, real-world vehicles. So they don't have the Dyna Xenon idea where, like, you could retool, like, where you could, like, get away with it because of futuristic vehicles, and you can just kind of mesh things together. No, we've never had a combiner that he himself has an alt mode he could transform into. I'm trying to think, like, what is even the closest to that? The only time combiner characters themselves transform into vehicle modes is when they have some, like, kitty toy that that approximates the combined mode of the figure, but doesn't separate into individual bots. Yeah, I think the engineering behind that is just absurd. Yeah, unfortunately, no. We have not had that yet. I don't think we're going to get that. What is going to replace Top Toys a year list once the video series is inevitably over? Probably just top 10s of normal stuff. You know? Because that's the thing. Is like, top 10 has been a hostage for a long time now because of that countdown. I have not wanted to overdo the top 10 format by incorporating others this year. So there's a lot that we could still do with that format. Now I am going to retool it. I'm going to, like, freshen it up once we're through, you know, all the way through, like, best of 2024. But yeah, we'll probably just replace it with just whatever comes to mind, and then we will, like, just go along with, like, normal Q&As. How likely do you think it is for us to get figures of the Guiding Hand and Age of the Primes? I hope Rung gets a better figure than the Weaponizers from War for Cybertron Trilogy, and I can see Tyrus being a redeco of Studio Series TF1 Sentinel. I don't think that's in the cards because we're already doing 13 obscure characters to do the Primes. Adding in an entirely new cast of even more obscure characters at the same time would be a monumental risk. The only reason that this toy line is going to happen is because they are mixing in popular G1 combiner teams that are going to make sure that cases of toys sell. And the only reason it's going to work is because they're going to sprinkle in major characters that have demand from the fandom. Basically, the 13 are there because there is enough to prop the toy lines up, because they themselves are not going to sell the toy line. They're going to be popular amongst fans, but they are extremely obscure. So to add in the guiding hand on top of that, I think is way too much. Maybe in like if the toy line does well and they decide to do a third year of it, maybe you get the guiding hand there and we get a proper rung. Question: who would win in a fight, Batman or Moon Knight? Does Batman have time to prepare? Yeah, it's Batman. Even if he doesn't, it's Batman. Did Transformers Energon even have a prayer being a decent sequel to Armada, or is the idea of such just something that could never work? It's absolutely fine. Energon for like 10 episodes is absolutely fine, and it absolutely has a lot of potential as a sequel series to Armada. But they ran out of plot halfway through the series and then didn't figure out what to do until like there's only 10 episodes left. So Energon had potential, and we're going to talk about Energon and its potential at some point. But yeah, it absolutely had a prayer. It also had bad writers behind it, though. If we ever get a Kamen Rider crossover, would it be driver-based? Matrix or Leadership would be cool. I mean, kind of. That's really not how crossovers work, you know? Like, it's very rare that it goes to the other side. We would more likely get to have, like, transforming rider motorcycles that, like, approximate the rider in robot mode. Or it would be based on things like a transforming Kivat, transforming Zectors from Kabuto. But things like that rarely go the other way. That said, a Deca driver just kind of looks like a Matrix of Leadership. Retooling it would be pretty easy. Do you think orchestral music or synth music is better fit for Transformers? It's all about how the show is written and the vibe they are going for. Like, Transformers Prime is trying for this big, epic feel, so orchestral works really well there. For synth music, I would honestly think Cyberworld coming up, like, the name alone in Cyberworld makes me feel like that's the era for that. Like, if you want to do synth and Transformers besides that, you'd probably be looking at Cyberverse, especially once they get back to Cybertron and everything around them is technological. But again, it really just depends on the vibe of the series. Like, it's not a matter of, like, which one would work better for Transformers in general. It's just, it depends on what the show's doing. If you were a Combiner War style torso, who would you pick as your 4 limbs? I have no clue. Genuinely, off the top of my head, I have no idea. Like, the easy answer is to pick my favorites, right? You know? I wouldn't mix and match. They'd have to all be Autobots, because I'm not going to get along with a bunch of Decepticons, and I'm not going to mix and match the two. I'm not sure who it would be. Like, genuinely. I might go for, like Euro G1 figures, like, oh god, what's the team called? You know, like Motivators? That kind of thing? No, it's hard to pick. That's actually very hard to pick. We know you used to have a TJ TV show. I still do. I did an episode this year. Was it this year? God, I'm losing track. How about a TCG show? I tried. I did box openings for live stream. The nice thing about running a shop like that is I could get a box of cards a little bit earlier than some people. So even with a jump on their release, it still didn't really have a whole lot of interest. And frankly, TCGs are very expensive. And if I'm being completely honest with you, I'm not really interested in them. Like, I will collect my Scyther cards for my Swarm, but I'm not opening up a bunch of packs. I'm done with, like, opening up, like, dozens of Pokemon packs. It's just, I've got so many bulk cards I don't have anything to do with. I'm genuinely thinking of just chucking them. Just keeping all the holos. But, yeah, like, I'm just, I don't have enough interest in a TCG to really make a a video series out of it, it'd be boring for you because you'd be able to tell I'm not into it. Who do you think would go against G1 Bumblebee in a death battle? I mean, there's better answers from more popular series. I think the most obvious one for us Transformer fans would be Scooter from GoBots. Like, size-wise, way out of comparison, but you'd basically be getting by, like, who's the pluckier of the two? Like, who can outpluck the other? I'm trying to think. I feel like there's, like, some better, like... I feel like there should be some better opponent out there, but, like, none's coming to mind at the moment. How do you feel about Cybertronians using made-up swear words and insults specific to them? Like those referring to Allspark or them being made out of metal. In general, those that don't exist on Earth but would make sense both the characters and to us, the fans. I mean, specific to them, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Now, I do like the imitation... words, like using scrap as like as a profanity, or like the pit. I do like that because it means that you have a much more like a bigger range of vocabulary and expression for the characters without actually making them swear. I do like when they do it. But it has to be a show telling a more serious story. Beast Wars can get away with it. Cyberverse, not so much. Since Hot Wheels and Transformers with the Hot Wheels crossover car toys, do you think Transformers might get some of the Hot Wheels non-licensed vehicles for transforming versions? You skipped my arachnid question for October. I do apologize. I read whatever YouTube pulls up for me. Sometimes it doesn't get everything in there. Sometimes it skips me on the list, or sometimes I just lose track because these take two hours long or longer to record. For Hot Wheels, I don't know any like non-licensed like original Hot Wheel toys that are iconic enough to be a Transformer. It'd be cool to go the other way, but it'd have to be something that was like really recognizable and popular, or else who's gonna care about the Transformer? It's just a random generic car that happened to be a Hot Wheel once. And I'm not enough of a Hot Wheel fan. I'm not a Hot Wheel fan. I don't have enough know-how in Hot Wheels to tell you like, oh, it's this car, that this one would work. I genuinely don't know. Would you like Hasbro to make a War Within Optimus Prime that's not titanium? Yeah, like that's a really cool design. Like it was really hurt by being a titanium toy. I'd love for them to give it another go, and it seems like if they're dipping into like more comic book based stuff, if Hearts of Steel is a thing, yeah, like there's a possibility. Would it be wild if a third party would take a crack at the old Transformer concepts like the Megatron T-Rex Rider or the original Baboon Transformer? I've said for a long time that third party is missing a huge boat by not filling in gaps in Transformer collections. Look at how many G1 characters never got G1 style toys that, like I have 2 shelves worth of Generation 1 stuff to the right of me here. I would love to have an RC that fits in beside Hot Rod and Blur and Cup. I would love to have, like, a DevCon that looked like he was designed during Season 2. I'd like to have the female Autobots. There should be an Alita 1 in there. There should be a Firestar in there. I think that's a huge boat. And, yeah, like, trying to mimic a lot of those canceled designs, that is, like, good potential there that they're kind of leaving to waste. There's absolutely things they could do there. I think they're so fixated right now on either masterpiece scale or legend scale that they're really not looking at anything else at the moment. Third party is kind of this like weird quandary right now, like no one doing anything really that original anymore. It's all just the same repeats, combiners, and Dinobots, and they're really not paying attention to like G1 or generation scale anymore. Let's see. Where are we here? What if the Death Source and his Decepticons landed on Earth instead of Megatron's forces in the '84 cartoon? So keep in mind the power scaling that comes from the Japanese G1 side of things. You know, Diatlas takes over because Starsaber fell in battle and was too damaged to continue on as the leader of the Autobots. So like you have a more powerful leader. There are step ups, So ultimately, like Deathsaurus would come across as probably more vile and more powerful. And if it was him landing instead of Megatron, Optimus would probably have a much harder time actually defeating them, I feel like. Yeah, especially because like if the rest of his crew landed, that means that they have Lio Kaiser, who's a way more powerful combiner than Devastator was. And the individual vehicles are way more effective as a combat unit as well. Yeah, and you'd have the Dino Force to counteract the Dinobots, which they would actually outnumber the Dinobots. So like that actually presents a lot of problems for Optimus in 1984. You used to have a Monster Hunter Zenoga review, which had a tribute to a certain reviewer from Channel Awesome. Will you ever re-upload that video without the tribute? No. So even though like I could just use like YouTube Studio to edit out those little mentions of him and the little tribute pieces at the front and back of the review and make it go live again. But the entire idea, the onus behind producing that video was someone I considered a friend died. And the whole video was done with him in mind. Now, granted, that was years before we found out the guy was a monster. Just genuinely disgusting behavior by the guy. So, no. Because of the spirit that it was originally done in, I feel like restoring it, even without his mentions, would still give him credit somehow. And I do not want to do that. I don't want to do that. Like, the man and the memory are better left buried. So, no, that review's not going to see the light of day again. Favorite Megatron figure? It's been a lot. It's a lot to go through in my brain. Weirdly enough, like, Energon Megatron always hit me in this really fun way. I really like the design on that toy. I could say the same of Cybertron Megatron, obviously. Classics. Classics is really nice. Especially I have the Henkei. I actually have the Henkei version thanks to Sean Long for getting it for me at BotCon 2010. There's a name a lot of you haven't heard in a long time. He's been out of the game, but he used to be one of the biggest names. So, shout out to him, because the man, every now and then he'll drop me a happy birthday. The man is a big teddy bear. But yeah, like, those would be the go-to ones. If we're talking like extended Megatrons, Beast Wars Transmetal Megatron has always been a favorite. Just make sure you get the Japanese Metals version. That one won't break. How would Megatron view Emperor Palpatine according to the Decepticon philosophies? He'd probably view him as a threat. Like, on one hand, respect. You've managed to conquer the majority of the galaxy. On the other hand, that's my galaxy to own. So yeah, that's Megatron helping out the rebels by, like, essentially getting rid of his competition. You'd probably figure out some way of he'd probably have some way of blowing up the Death Star himself. See, what do you think they'll release a full Generations Deluxe class Cyberverse swoop now that G1 Dinobots have their toys? I really like Cyberverse Swoop. I love the idea of having one smart Dinobot. I love that it's Swoop. I think it works to make her a girl. I think she's a lot more fun than I would have expected her to be. But I don't think she's actually going to get a Generations figure, unfortunately, especially because that set of Dinobots is known as a combiner, and that version of Volcanicus actually looks good. I don't know if they could actually replicate that into a toy, but if you start doing one, people are going to expect all of them, and all of them as a combiner group, and that's just going to lead to a lot more headaches. So unfortunately, I don't think we're ever going to get a girl Swoop, much as I would love it. There's a third-party company that's going to do a Cyberverse-inspired combiner, and they have actively gone against Girl Swoop, and they're using the original male concept art version of Swoop for the combiner. If anyone from said third-party company out that is doing that is actually listening, you're a coward. You are a coward. We want Girl Swoop. Make Girl Swoop, and I will buy your whole combiner. Okay? Do you think Sony should give up the live-action Spider-Man movie rights? P.S. I hate those Spider-Man-less movies, Madam Web and Morbius. They genuinely don't know what they're doing with the license. I really do think they should just sell it back to Marvel at this point. Just let them control it. I don't like the Venom movies. I really didn't like Madam Web and Morbius. I don't know why you would even do a Madam Web movie. She's not even a well-known character, really. The idea they had to do they had that idea to do a Sinister Six movie with most of the villains being unestablished in live-action movies. And then they were, and like, who would care about a bunch of villains? It's not even like a Suicide Squad situation where they have to do a good guy thing. They're just villains. They're just villains. Why would you focus a movie on the villains? Like, they genuinely have no idea what they're doing with the license. None whatsoever. How do you think an interaction between the diagnostic drone from Beast Machines and Teletran X from Cyberverse would be like? Teletran X can get a little bit saucy. No, not saucy. That's a bad word for it. Oh God, no. It's very late. He can be a little feisty. Let's say feisty. I think that ends with just the diagnostic drone getting beaten up by Teletran X. Which Ninja Turtle did you get first as a kid? I want to say I had Leonardo and Michelangelo at the same time. I think my parents were lucky enough to get both of them for me at the same time. Because I remember having just two of them at one point. And I remember I took them to school one day. Someone stole the Leonardo out of my backpack. But I know I never lost the Michelangelo. So, yeah, I think it was those two. Because Mikey was always my favorite. Of course, that was going to be the one that I got. Have you ever read any TMNT comics? Appropriate that those came back to back. Yes, I have read a lot of the modern ones. I'm not really happy that they've done kind of a soft reboot thing, because I do feel like there was story potential still to go. But I understand, like, once you get very long in the tooth on a story like that, you need to restart so new people can jump on. They have been very, very good, though. Like, I do like a lot of the characters in that one. I really liked their take on Mona Lisa and Venus. I think both were, like, really good reimaginings. I like a lot of the new twists. I like getting more mystical. I like the Shredder redemption. There's a lot to like. They're really good books. How would the owner feel about changing the name of the store to Planet Collectibles? He doesn't like changing anything, so no. We were supposed to change the name when he first got involved, because the name of the store is frankly very boring. But no. I don't think that works either. That conveys like a matter of size that we just do not have. We're a small little tucked away store. We do not constitute a planet. Do you think they'll introduce Star Saber into more American media? Most likely not, because where do you fit in another Autobot leader in fiction right now? Especially because they seem to really want to focus on smaller casts of characters these days. There really just isn't room for Star Saber, which is unfortunate. I hope I'm not too late here. You got in just under the wire. Would it be cool if Hasbro did a Transformers D&D collab? They kind of did, because we had the transforming D20s. But that again come down to like what's iconic enough from D&D to actually work as a transformer. Like you could make a beholder that turns into a robot. Where's the you imagine the irony of Shockwave, a Cyclops transforming into a beholder, a creature with 9 eyes? That would be funny. That'd be great, actually. Yeah, that's the one. I would probably go that route. Then again, like the beholder would probably be Xanathar. 10 eyes. Someone corrected me in the comments. No, 10 eyes. In that case, like Shockwave's color scheme wouldn't work. I don't know who you'd do at that point. What would you do if 100 billion titanium G.I. Joe Megatrons attacked the Earth with the goal of enslaving humanity? Probably laugh as they all fall apart and start trying to crawl their way to conquest. When do you think more Age of the Primes will be revealed? Probably... Oh my god. When is the next show? I don't know when the next, like, big toy show is. It's hard to say. It's very hard to say. We're probably at some point going to get a new Pulse stream. Hopefully, like, in December. Like, I would hope sometime in December. December or January, because after that, like, those toys are going to start hitting. So, it's hard to say right now. Okay. I'm going to let you read this for yourself. So you can just, like, read this and realize that this is being really rude. And I'm just going to tell you, don't do this. Don't be insulting. Don't just be nice. Be nice. That gets your comment ignored. Just be nice in the comment. Just be nice when you ask a question. Don't call people stupid. Don't call people stupid. Don't be presumptuous like that. Oh, let's see. Why do you think Hasbro never made the Transformers Power Rangers crossover? The only thing we ever heard was that people from Hasbro didn't think either side really needed it. Which is ironic because Power Rangers as a brand has now completely failed at Hasbro. So absolutely, obviously someone needed it. I genuinely don't know why. You know, like a repaint of that new Mighty Morphin Megazord that they did, like the retail level one, a repaint of that into Dinobot colors. Or the Power of the Prime Dinobots repainted into Dinozord colors. Like, either one was an easy shoo-in to do. Would have been guaranteed made money. No idea why they didn't do it. No idea why they didn't do it. Yeah, it's just... I would chalk it up to just, like, general mismanagement of the Power Ranger brand. Just... By the time someone figured that out, they probably already decided that the brand wasn't working out. It's probably not a matter of we don't feel like either brand needed to do it. It's probably a lot closer to this brand isn't succeeding enough to bank on. What are the possibilities of a Transformers cross SpongeBob collab? I don't know much SpongeBob. I don't know enough vehicles from SpongeBob to answer this. All I know is there's an invisible boat. And I only know that because of Power Wash Simulator. Don't have an answer for that, unfortunately. Let's see. What would be a fun Transformers wrestling tag team? I feel like that is where we pull back, and we mentioned them before, like Ransack and Crumple Zone. If you're a wrestling fan, that would be your X-Pac and Kane. Or more correctly, that's your Enzo and Big Cass. Where you just have this little loudmouth who gets beaten up all the time and has to leave it to the big bruiser to get the job done. That really is the best equivalent I have. Like Ransack and Crumple Zone, it's Enzo and Cass. It really is. How you doing? I'm just going to read this one. It's a comment, but the problem is Chris Cox and that Hasbro board is the problem. They do not want to be a toy company. They want to be an IP company. I wholeheartedly disagree with that. Because it is very clear that they are still interested in making toys. They are licensing out IPs that, frankly, aren't performing for Hasbro in the first place, so they are better to be licensed out. You know? So, no, I don't think Hasbro's turning into an IP company. They're just focusing more on the IPs that are actually working. That's kind of like that's as simple as it gets there. Why you haven't reviewed the Owl House? I did a video where I'm just kind of gushing over the Owl House. It's not a really well produced review. I didn't even have like notes or anything. I basically just gushed about how much I liked the show. But I don't know if I like Owl House is well past now. Like the iron is ice cold. So at this point, probably not worth doing, unfortunately. I still love the series. I'm thrilled that Funko's got announced. I never thought I'd be thrilled for a Funko Pop, but it's nice that some official merchandise is actually being made. Because, good lord, as I sit here, I am staring at the Nook over my monitor, where a bunch of fan-made Owl House figurines stand. And I'm considering throwing them into the Toycember thing, but like I've got 7 of them, which might be a little bit much. Point being, yeah, I still love the Owl House, but I think like talking about it now, the moment's passed. What would you say about Kamen Rider based on Gundam, with forms being popular Gundams and gimmicks like being 2 sprues, 1 beast arm, and 1 like. Oh, man, I'm not. There's a lot of either poor spelling errors or very bad, like, predictive text going on in here. I can't quite parse this, but suffice to say, I don't think Kamen Rider needs to have a Gundam-based series. That really does feel like one definitely does not need the other. I really just feel like you just get, I don't know, like really weird looking scrawny Gundams with bug eyes. Like I don't think either brand benefits from that. I think they're too different to actually work and meld together. Okay, last question. Hasbro's doing a new show and they want a G1 Decepticon not named Megatron or Galvatron to lead the baddies. Who do you choose? Not the whole cast, just the main antagonist. Out of everyone we have to pick from? Ooh boy. We've named a lot in this video, haven't we? We've talked about Overlord, we've talked about Deathsaurus, I mentioned Tarn. We've kind of gone through a gambit here. There's part of me that would really like to see The Fallen properly as like a series villain. I think the Fallen, like like one of the 13 would make a very threatening villain because like he would be that much more powerful than a standard Transformer. And it is a situation that would give Megatron a reason to actually be on the good guy's side like he is in, like Lost Light and Earthspark. That's one of those positions where there is definitely story to gain by actually having like Megatron and Megatronus coexisting. Because imagine the Fallen actually trying to coax Megatron back to his side, because Megatron chose that name for a reason. And now here's the one he named himself after, presenting himself and like offering him a spot at his side. And what does Megatron do then? What does Megatron do then? So that one actually that one has some interesting beats to it. I think like Megatronus the Fallen would be interesting to see as like a series villain. And that, after almost 2.5 hours, is my Q&A for the month. I need to go to bed. But thank you everyone for sitting through. If you made it all the way through, you are one of the real ones. I really do appreciate you. Just let me know in the comments below what your question is for the next month. As always, keep to the rules. I will pin them as the top comment in the comments below. But I will now rest. Thank you all for watching. I will see you next time.
Analysis complete. Adapting translators to local language.
Are you out there?